Perfect Turd Podcast, episode 94, Lamar. It's the Vampire Movie Showdown.
Before we get started, we need to add vampires with quotations. Boy, oh boy. We chose these movies at random because this is our first episode for the good old month of October.
Kicking off the Halloween season with a showdown. And we got three movies. We got Against the Dark, starring Steven Seagal. We've got Halloween Hell, starring one of our favorites, Eric Roberts.
Yes.
And then we have a movie that actually has a lot of people in it, which has got two names. It's called The Revenant, but I think the official name was Modern Vampires.
Oh, I just knew it as The Revenant.
And that's got a whole bunch of people in it.
We're going to talk about that. That was a very interesting one.
I will say this, Lamar.
Yes.
The movie stars Kim Cattrall, who some people know from Porky's, Police Academy, and Star Trek, and Big Trouble in Little China. Later on in her career, she became one of my all-time favorite cougars. But being the professional reviewer that I am, I will not let that influence me, sir.
Yes, that's cool. Well, speaking of MILFs, we'll get to that later on. When we talk about that movie a little bit more.
Well, let's start the showdown. First, what are going to be the categories?
The categories are going to be first, overall plot. 2, characters and acting. 3, the use of vampires. And special effects. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Aye, aye, aye. Well, let's start. Which movie had the best overall plot?
Well,
I guess we got to talk about the plots real fast.
Boy, oh boy, do we. Start us off with Against the Dark, Joe.
It's not that it's a bad plot, but it's been done a million times before. Basically, there's some kind of an apocalypse of outbreak. People are infected. They're like mutants. The description of this movie said they were vampires, but they were just like zombies. They were not vampires. I'm sorry. The creatures do only come out at night. I guess that kind of makes them vampiric.
Yeah.
But these people are trapped in a hospital. They're trying to get out to go to daylight. And Steven Seagal, who is a vampire hunter, is there to rescue them all. And that's basically it.
There's one special scene where he kills a vampire off screen.
Yeah.
And then he goes to I think it was a little girl, "Are you okay?" And it's a completely different lighting. His face is like half lit.
Yeah.
So I think he was the selling point of the movie, but he's hardly in the movie.
Yeah. What about Halloween Hell?
Okay.
It's also pretty simple if you think about it.
It's simple, but it's weird.
Yeah. Basically,
a demon is woken up in this building, and it kills some people. And then for some reason, Eric Roberts' character, Dracula, he calls himself Dracula, hosts a reality TV show where he puts random people in this house. And if you stay, the whole night on Halloween, you get $100,000.
It was more interesting than Against the Dark, I'll say that.
Yes.
But in the end, it's still a group of young, people stuck in one location, reality TV show thing. But then you have Modern Vampires, a.k.a. Revenant. This movie, the basic plot is it's showing the underground lives of vampires.
Yes.
How they have their own kind of culture and their own nightclubs where they feast on people.
Straight up feast on people. Like, they trap people, make them walk around butt naked, and they're like, "Oh, I want to kill you. Come here," and kill them.
Yeah. But the main vampire is angry, Lamar, because someone is making the other vampires look bad and drawing attention to them. It's a vampire prostitute that goes around killing men.
Well, is she a vampire prostitute, or is she a vampire posing as a prostitute?
Yeah.
We gotta, we don't want to misname people. So she kind of trapped. You know what? This is kind of like the movie Monster. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Where she like traps men and then kills them. This is what this vampire woman is doing. So we gotta rate
for
it.
best plot, I'm going with Modern Vampires. it's out there. It's doing a lot of stuff, and you do get to see the world that they live in and everything. So
that's exactly. I feel like this movie is kind of like Blade in reverse, because like we'll talk about the characters, but there's a lot of parallels, and I do like the world building. Yeah. Because when I'm watching this movie, I'm like, oh, I'm getting to see, vampires. They like eating people. They chill out. They like to drink. They're very sexualized.
Oh, yes.
This movie. Oh, boy.
And Kim Cattrall is one of those sexualized vampires, Lamar.
Well, we're going to get to boy, oh, boy.
2 points for modern vampires as we move into the next category. Who had the best character?
Okay.
This
starting with Against the Dark.
That's easy. Yes. Bland. Those are the most bland stock characters there is.
You have the vampire hunters, and then just people running around. Yeah. But that's it. You really don't care about them.
No, it's bland. Halloween Hell did have a couple standout. Of course, Eric Roberts is always great.
He never phones it in.
Never.
Is he a vampire, or is he just is that like his stage name?
I think at the end it is revealed that he was just a guy that called himself Dracula.
Huh.
So there's that. But his character was fun, and the cowboy guy was kind of funny too.
He was a lovable douche. He was just antagonized everybody. It was his idea for some reason to play strip poker. He had a guitar randomly, and he performed, and a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just one of those people that you're like, I hate him, but I love to watch him because he's so sinister.
He was a standout in the movie. Modern vampires had not only a lot of characters, a lot of good actors.
Yeah.
And Craig Ferguson, Udo Kier.
Yes.
From
Blade.
Yep.
Casper Van Dien. He was, of course, Starship Troopers.
Yeah, a lot of people. And also, Kim Cattrall was in it.
Do you like Kim Cattrall? You can't forget everybody. We also have Rod Steiger. He won an Academy Award, Joe. Okay? Yeah. I understand Kim Cattrall is in this movie. Okay?
A lot of vampire characters, but then you have the human characters. You had Van Helsing.
Yes.
Who's trying to get all these. But Van Helsing, he can't do it on his own, Lamar. He needed some recruits to help him with his vampire hunting. Well, who else would you get?
We're going to break this down. We're going to, because there's a lot to it. So he just puts, I guess, an ad in the paper, and he gets this young African-American man by the name of, his street name is Time Bomb.
Yeah.
And he takes the job because he's like, man, I need a job because I'm on probation. We're just crushing stereotypes here, Joe. And he's like, man, we really need some help after, they kill one vampire. He's like, let me call some Crips.
Well, first he says, doesn't he say, let me call my brothers?
Yeah.
And then Van Helsing thought it was some kind of like priesthood or something. That was a funny line.
Why would it just be like actual familiar brothers, Joe? I mean, it's not like a black man has any other, not even his friends could be brothers. They have to be gang members.
Yeah. So he calls in the Crips.
Yes.
And they go vampire hunting. And then randomly, towards the end of this movie, Kim Cattrall, who's in this movie, turns into a full-on vampire, and then they run a train on her, as they say on the streets, Lamar.
And we have to say this. Did she ask them?
She did ask for it.
Okay, all right.
She did ask, because apparently that's another way to turn people into vampires.
As we find out, Joe.
Yes, through sex. So there you go. So I think for me, these are the best characters. They're out there, and they were all played well by really good actors, actually.
Shockingly, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think Casper Van Dien, he was like a co-producer, but yeah, they pulled in some pretty good people to play these characters.
Yeah.
So.
The movie, it was directed by Richard Elfman, who's the brother of the famous film composer Danny Elfman, who did the music for this.
There are some favors pulled for this movie.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so far, Modern Vampires has the commanding lead 4-0, but we have two more categories. So who had the best vampires, Lamar?
Who
had vampires.
That was gonna be my point, Joe, because Against the Dark, they straight up say, well, they're not really vampires, they're more like mutants. Even though in the description, like you said, they're vampires.
That's the only reason why we watched the damn movie.
Yes.
They're not really vampires.
Yeah,
they're zombies with vampire elements.
Yeah.
But not really vampires. Now, Halloween Hell, the only real vampire would be the Eric Roberts character.
If he's a vampire,
If he is a vampire, and I'm pretty sure at the end he was like, he said something to the effect where he was just pretending to be Dracula. So the movie was more about the demon.
Yeah. Whoa, boy, we're going to talk about that demon. But yeah,
So does that mean by default, modern vampire, they're the only ones that had vampires?
I mean, really, they only were the ones that had vampires. And vampires that were actually, like, they had their own world. They had their own, like, hierarchy and all this stuff.
Lore, everything.
Everything. Yeah. So.
Well, 2 more points for modern vampires, which gives them basically the win here, 6-0. But we proceed anyways to our last category, special effects. Well, Against the Dark, it had some gore.
Yeah.
And it had good set design. It had a vibe.
It did, yes.
But it really didn't lean too much on, like, a lot of effects.
No. But when you have Steven Seagal doing his Aikido and swordsmanship and running at, like...
The effects budget went towards his hair piece, I guess.
Shh. Moving on. Don't tell
Halloween
anybody.
Hell, however, did have some special effects, Lamar.
You know, they did a remake of Aladdin with Will Smith.
Yeah.
It's sad to say that this movie reminded me of that movie's horrible special effects. Well, because it's a demon. First of all, the demon is all red and it looks like a pig. Or is that just me? It looks like a freaking pig. And it's like floating on like red gas.
Yeah. Flames.
Yeah, flames. That's what it is. Well, the special effect. Well, thank you, Joe, because I wouldn't have known that by the special effects. So, yeah, it was weird. And then there were parts where, like, one of my favorite kills was he comes up to a lady and just takes her face off perfectly.
He's good at his job.
Yeah, he's done this before. Yeah. Boy, oh boy.
It's one of those things where it's like, well, at least they tried. They had big dreams. They went for it.
Yeah, they had just big dreams.
And then modern vampires, it had some gore and it had some vampire effects at the end where they were full vamped out.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of a transition effect. This was made in 1999. So the transition from normal to vampire wasn't the smoothest.
It was like maybe a transition, just a little bit. That's all. Yeah. So
you know what? I'm gonna give it to Halloween Hell.
I am too, because that stayed with me. Like it's laughably bad. It's just, dear God.
Well, Halloween Hell got a little love. The final tally was 6-2, and the winner of our first vampire showdown is Modern Vampires, starring Kim Cattrall.
Just gonna skip over everybody else, Joe? Well, she did have to pay the ultimate price in this movie. That's the weird thing about this movie. How come we never heard of this? How come no one has talked about it?
You think it would have been one of those kooky little late 90s movie that kind of like a cult classic type of thing?
Mm-hmm.
I never heard of this. And the poster, the box cover sucks too. So that doesn't help it.
Yeah, it does. It is bad. So.
Well, all right. Well, does that wrap this up then?
It does, man.
All right. Well, we're gearing up for the Halloween season.
Or if I'm just Eric Roberts, I'm already sitting down. Ha ha ha.
All righty. Peace.
Deuces.